Weak men will fail, and they deserve to fail. And I will mock their failure.
Like, they want women to be a stay-at-home mom or whatever. But in order to do that, you got to have somebody who at least can bring in enough money.
I don't know how many times you got to read Jordan Peterson's book to figure out you don't just get to exist and get a woman.
If you've ever watched My 600-Pound Life, there's literally 600-pound women. They always have a boyfriend.
No. Feminism has greatly benefited like a lot of guys, like the top 20%. And then the guy says, why buy the cow when you get the milk for free?
Ironic, isn't it? Isn't it a little ironic?
Hey fam, welcome back to One and Done. Today we're going to be tackling a hot topic, the push of feminism and the rise of the girl boss culture. Is it about empowerment or is there an economic agenda behind it? We'll look into how getting more women into the workforce has affected wages, societal stability, and family dynamics. Plus, we'll explore the role of weak men and the impact of modern careerism and social media. Stick around as we dig into these issues. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and let's dive in.
The other really obvious reason to push feminism is you get all the women out of the home and into the workforce. You have twice as many incomes to tax. You have kids that are in daycares and state-run schools where you can give children the values and the history that you want to give them.
I don't think the tax thing, the double taxation thing is correct, because if you have singular income homes, the buying power you're taxing is the same. And so it just led to rapid inflation. It strained the workforce. I love this. There's this graph that lefties like to show where it's like right around the end of the 70s, you see wages, you see like inflation keep going up, but wages stay the same. And they're like, what was this all about? This is because they were going after unions. And it's like, no, that's when women entered the workforce. Competition among workers doubled, and that's going to depress wages. Guaranteed.
So why do you think suddenly in the 1970s we saw this huge number of women enter the workforce? Like they just organically decided they loved careerism? Or do you think it had something to do with all the propaganda telling them that you need to have an education and have your own money, because if you don't, you're vulnerable and your husband can abuse you?
But we have to get a bit more reductive, because while what you're saying is absolutely true, where does this come from? And I blame men. Weak men. Men are weak. Men continually grow weak. And an element of what's going on with the feminism, you know, like I'll mention a lot of what we're seeing is really, really bad, like no fault divorce, just basically meant marriage is over. It's like you're dating now. That's it. You're dating with a special placard from the government, but you can just leave at any moment. That's ridiculous.
Yes.
And these are bad things. However, you know, all these guys that are watching these anti-women channel, like, I try not to be a dick to people who want to figure out how to better their lives. Like if I see a guy going to the gym, I'm going to tell, like, and he's fat and he's overweight or whatever, and he's struggling, I'm going to be like, bro, you got this. You know what I mean? So I see these guys who are watching these channels, and part of me is just like, that's stupid, but I'm not going to hate on a guy who's actively investigating. They may not understand completely, but they're like, why is this thing happening? But I'll just put it this way. Part of what we're seeing, it's actually good. You know why? Weak men will fail, and they deserve to fail. And I will mock their failure.
Well, what about Acolyte? Star Wars sucks. I mean, this does suck.
I'll watch it. And where are the strong men to lift the burdens and the heavy rocks to make good stuff?
So look, Tim said a lot there, and I agree with some and I disagree with other things he said. Like, people are looking at these channels because there are voids either in their information or in their lives, and they're finding answers on these channels. Where are the tough guys? Well, that's why people turn to people like Andrew Tate, who doesn't shy away from masculinity. He may not be the answer to everything, but people can take bits and pieces from these different influences, if you like, and be influenced by these things like dating channels, because they can see in real time some of the issues that arise. And for instance, Rachel Wilson's husband, Andrew Wilson, he's great at exposing these by asking open-ended questions, challenging these young ladies' ideologies. And what we can see in real time is a lot of these things that these young ladies are having issues with, they don't think that deeply about, and it does get exposed. Now, whilst these dating shows are quite popular for young men, the female audiences are actually growing, because there are some golden nuggets of information there. If you're wanting to improve, if you're wanting to learn, if you're wanting to take that information and utilize it. Now, if you're getting on there for nefarious reasons, that's on you. But I disagree with Tim. You know, I don't think you should just mock guys because they're struggling. That's why they go to these channels. And I'll definitely give Tim credit because it's great how he puts these panels together and we can see another perspective. And I do agree with Tim that over the years, men have relinquished the responsibility, abandoned their masculinity and their role as leaders. And what it's created is a whole new group of followers and not leaders. We can see it in politics, especially in the West. There's no leaders. They're motivated and guided by social media likes and kowtowing to the minority groups.
So here's what I'm saying. You got a bunch of guys that are sitting online, overweight. And again, I'm not making fun of everybody's overweight, saying everybody's overweight is a failure. I'm saying you've got guys who are not trying to better themselves, who are not trying to exercise, who are not cleaning the Cheetos off their mustache, who aren't.
Tim.
That's right. I'm looking at you, Alex. They're not wiping their armpits.
You know that I do eat a lot of Cheetos and stuff. Yes, Tim knows that. That is a
what we're seeing right now is, for one, we can go back 100 years, 200 years, and talk about suffrage, and it was weak men across the board who kept bending the knee and could not maintain social order. They just gave up. But I look at today and I'm like, well, look, it's interesting. Maybe what's happening needs to happen. This is natural selection.
Yeah.
A society has emerged because men became weaker and weaker. They could not provide for what women wanted, and they could not provide stability in social order. And now you have these fractured systems where young men sit around complaining on the internet, removing themselves from the dating pool, complaining they can't get in. Meanwhile, I know dudes who are swimming in women and they're short and they're wealthy because these guys are like, here are the cards I'm holding in my hand. I am going to figure out how to maximize my capabilities with this.
I think what Tim's alluding to there is men do have the opportunity, even later in life, to increase their attractiveness to other women. Doesn't matter if you're short or you have something that's not that pleasing to the eye. As a man, there's other ways that you can build and increase your value in the dating marketplace. For instance, you can go to the gym, you can work out, you can be physically healthier, you can get your money up. And this is where I'm going to disagree with Tim, because I think these dating podcasts and that help you also level up in regards to knowledge, get more of an understanding of how the dating marketplace works, set your standards and find the partner that aligns with those standards and values.
If you look at a lot of these channels like to highlight these dating apps where women, they only want the top 20th percentile of attractive men. And so that means 80% of men are just out of the dating pool. And I look at that and I'm like, sucks for you, I guess, dude. I don't know how many times you got to read Jordan Peterson's book to figure out you don't just get to exist and get a woman. Like, there was one I was watching. I'm going to shout him out, Homath, because credit goes to him, despite the fact I'm being right.
I like his work. That's what I'm saying.
He shows the 10 through 1 men and women and how women go up. A woman who is a 1 wants a man who's a 4.
Right.
And I'm like, well, first of all, I don't think a woman who's a 1 is getting anybody. And like,
that's not true.
Do.
Wait, I have to cut you off, Tim. Because
they shockingly
if you've watched my
do.
Let me make this point. If you've ever watched my 600-pound life, there's literally 600-pound women. They always have a boyfriend.
No.
They always have a boyfriend on that
see,
show.
A 600-pound woman is like a 4.
What is a 1? Like a burn victim?
Yeah.
No. Burn victims can be 9s. For real? Like being subjected to a horrific accident doesn't reduce your value.
Yeah, I know, but looks wise, like.
Yeah, we're talking about looks, aren't we?
Are we?
we do the
no.
How do you rate?
Oh, you're doing total
dating
value.
Okay.
Yeah, total marketing,
Okay.
total dating value. So women have babies.
Mm-hmm.
That means it's very, very hard to be a 1 woman.
Oh, that's true.
Right. So a 1 woman is like a barren, mentally deficient, limbless autist in a nursing home. And to be fair, there are men who will abuse that poor creature. You know what I mean? Like, so, even in that regard. But my point to Homath was like, men are not ranked based on appearance. If you are a guy and you think that your number rating is based on appearance, you've not done any of the reading.
Right.
The Science of Sex documentary from a long time ago, they took 10 pictures of 10 men. No, I think it was like 100 men and 100 women. And then they had people come in a lab and rate them on a scale of 1 to 10 for attractiveness. They then took those pictures out into the streets and said, here's a picture, went to a woman and said, here's a picture of a guy. How would you rate this guy on a scale of 1 to 10? Guess what? The tall guy in the flannel with the rugged good looks and the wavy hair, they were like 9, 10, ooh, 9. And then, you know what they did? They showed this frumpy, chubby guy with thin hair and glasses and, you know, ugly. And the women were like, ooh, 5, 4. Then they added biographies. They made the guy in the flannel a manager at a theater who made $35,000 a year. They made the fat guy a software engineer who made $500,000 a year. And guess what happened?
It flipped. Yeah.
It evened out.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden the frumpy ugly guy's a 6 or a 7. And it's like, you got to be kidding me. That ugly guy, well, he's rich. He can provide. And so men get mad at women for being gold diggers. And I'm just like, that's the stupidest thing in the world.
Yeah, and look, everything he said there makes sense. And these are some of the things and statistics that you will hear on these dating podcasts. And then, like I said before, you'll see this play out in real time when the girls do respond to these sorts of questions and this sort of information. They actually claim they want one thing, but when they look at their dating history, it's actually something completely different. Like they say they want a nice guy, but they keep dating all these bad guys. They're not interested in the average earner, who is probably more likely to be faithful because he has less options. But they don't want that. They want the guy that every other girl wants.
Well, that's like what we were designed for. Like these people, they always contradict themselves with their logic. Like they want women to be a stay-at-home mom or whatever. But in order to do that, you got to have somebody who at least can bring in enough money to make that possible. You know, like I feel like women don't really care about, like I don't really care about looks so much. You're just looking more for somebody who's competent. You feel like, okay, you're somebody I can actually trust. Like you've got it together. You can lead the family. And then somebody who has the ability to work or will work. It's not really so much the money, it's the ability, will you go out and work? So I think throwing women under the bus for that is kind of stupid, because it's ultimately like biology forcing them to choose somebody based on, you know, we think this person can allow me to stay at home and raise kids.
Personally, I don't think you're a gold digger at all if you're looking for a husband that can protect and provide, someone that can provide you and your family resources. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. To me, that's not gold digging at all. It's more the ones that go in to secure the bag on a short-term basis and literally extract all those resources and money and financial security for the next, say, 18 years. We see it often in professional sports. It's the easiest place to identify this sort of behavior, and there are actually people like Brittany Renner that were online telling young ladies, this is how you secure a bag, this is how you stitch an NBA player up. Now, to me, that's absolute gold digging right there.
Yeah, there a lot of guys who...
If anything, it's traditional.
Right. A lot of guys who aren't going to do the work. I saw this meme on 4chan. It's a viral 4chan meme, green text memes. Have you ever seen them? And it was a picture of that, was it Hamish and Andy? I think the comedians were, I'm not sure. You remember that one, Alex, where they're like, are we the baddies?
Yeah,
the
of
Nazis?
course, yeah.
And it was that picture. And then he's like, my friend came and started complaining about this girl. He started saying like, you know, she has been like, she's like a gold digger. She's snooty. She's elitist. He asked her out and she refused. And she decided to date some loser guy. And then he was like, oh, wow. He's like, yeah, I hear that a lot. So he says, I decided to look up who this guy was. And he's like, he's an athlete. He's fit. He's 6 feet tall. He works at a charity helping children. And then he was like, my friend is obese, lazy, doesn't want to go to work, won't wash himself. And he was like, I think we're the bad guys. Like, yeah, like evolutionary biology and psychology. Women want to find a guy who's going to protect them from a bear. Are you that guy?
Well, I think the problem we have now is that's great if women do have, like Lily said, the intention of being moms, having kids, and they want a man to provide because they're going to have a family. But the issue we've run into now is that that's not what most women want to do. The average woman is having like 1.6 children now. The average first age they have a baby is like 30 or 31.
What's the average body count, Rachel? You probably know.
Oh, it varies so much depending on what surveys you look at. It could be like, some of them say like 8, some of them say a lot higher. I think it's probably higher because
it's higher.
They're all
they
lying.
lie.
Yeah.
They
They're all
lie.
lying.
We all know that they lie. So I don't know about the body count, but it's just like, if women wanted those things from men for the purpose of having a family, I think that's fine. But sadly, they don't seem to want to do that. So now or they wait until they're like 35 and they're like, well, now I want to have a child. And as a result, the United States for the first time has a rising maternal mortality rate. due to the advanced age of first pregnancy and pregnancies in general. So it's like we're kind of at this weird impasse where if women want men for resources, but you're also a career boss babe who has her own money and you got your own bag and you don't need a man for anything, then you can see why dating isn't working for people.
We should teach the history of Sparta.
When I ask women what are some of the greatest things you've ever achieved in your life, now, if they've got kids, usually they're going to say it's kids and it's grandkids. And that makes sense because you can't go literally and buy that from a shop. There's no other way to get a kid unless you're producing it yourself. Yeah, sure, you can adopt, etc., but someone else is still going to be having that kid. And it's funny because the groups that have more kids are the less fortunate, the poorer people. The groups that are well educated and financially better off, they're having less and less kids, if any at all. And that's why you see in a lot of the wealthier countries, birth rates are on the decline. The average age of those societies are getting older and older and older.
In our homeschools.
Or just watch the movie Idiocracy. Everybody's seen. Have you seen that movie?
Of course.
At the very beginning, why everybody's getting stupid because all the idiots are just having babies, and then the people that are smart and that don't want to waste their money only have one baby, and that's literally what's happening in society today. And it's just Venezuelan immigrants are having like 10 kids come up to the border, and Tim and I would not have 10 kids. It's different.
You know what they did in Sparta, right? Do you guys know about what they did in Sparta?
With the babies, how they would like.
Well, I don't know. I've heard that they would leave the baby out for 24 hours, and if it died, it deserved to die.
Yeah.
They're like, it was not strong. Yeah.
Wow.
They would just like leave it and walk away. But I'm not saying do that. The only way to get a headstone on your grave, if you were a man, was to die in battle, and if you were a woman, was to die in childbirth. And the reason I bring that up is not that we should literally follow that, but it's to show how a society valued having children.
Mm-hmm.
Women were seen as heroic warriors for having children.
Yeah.
Men were worthless unless they died fighting to protect their families.
Mm-hmm.
And then what we have now is I blame men, because I think you said this last time you were on the show that equality. You said something like equality is the choice of men. If at any point men decided, would you elaborate on that?
Yeah, because men have the monopoly on force. Any notion of women's rights is going to have to be enforced by men. So any illusion we have that women have rights is men saying, yes, we'll go ahead and enforce those rights for you. And you're right. I mean, if you read my book, it was like progressive era industrialist men who tend to be like your beta type of guys.
Gay men is what you're trying to say.
Well, they tend to be, so like think of Bill Gates, right? Not the most alpha dude, but very smart, became very successful and wealthy and rich. And it becomes Revenge of the Nerds to a certain degree, I think, where it's like for that type of guy, it's advantageous to have women's liberation because that's how those guys, at least they thought, we're going to get this sex with no strings attached if we do this sexual liberation stuff. And what they are finding out is that's not the good deal that they thought it was.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that Rachel raises there, is that yes, men will come and say, yes, we'll enforce those rights for you, but without that enforcement of men and the cooperation of men, those rights fall away. And we can see it for ourselves. What happened to Afghanistan when the Taliban took over? The rights that women had started to disappear. They lost those rights to be educated. They were no longer allowed to go to university and even schools at a younger age. Now, once men decide that those rights are no longer available for women, they cease to exist.
For the top 20th percentile,
yeah,
they're getting free sex whenever they want with no responsibility. And like feminism has greatly benefited like a lot of guys, like the top 20%.
Yeah.
Now they can sit around all day doing nothing while women go work and produce value and do labor, come back, preach about how liberated they are, give the guy free sex, and then the guy says, why buy the cow when you get the milk for free?
Ironic, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it a little ironic?
Look at this. I asked ChatGPT. The average body count for a woman between 25 and 44 is 4.2. And for men, it's 6.1. And you know what that means? Fewer guys are having more sex.
Yes, absolutely. And you have this giant bottom of the pyramid group of guys, like you said at the beginning, who are feeling left out and like they're never going to get a girl. They're
going to burn the place to the ground.
Yeah. Well, the situation in general is not sustainable for like multiple reasons. You have the conversation you guys had last week about how all these girls thinking jumping on OnlyFans and making money that way is a good thing, but it's having every girl be an Instagram model or a sex worker produces no actual value. There's nothing of value being actually produced in the economy. It's just money that's getting recycled from people who actually are producers. And combined with the super low birth rates, we're already seeing like logistical problems, supply chain problems. You have Japan and Canada, you know, euthanizing the elderly because there's more people in diapers that are old than young. It's not a sustainable situation, and the correction is going to suck. There's multiple ways it could happen, but none of it's going to be fun.
Handmaid's Tale.
Now, if you're out there subscribing to OnlyFans, you're already taking the L. Keep that money in your pocket, invest in yourself, get in the gym, get your game up. Don't empower these OnlyFans. And I don't like to call them models, but that's what they call them. Do not empower them by giving them money. Now that's going to wrap it up for this video. Put your comments in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Do you agree with Tim that these dating shows are no good? Or is there some useful information in there that you can take? Thanks once again for watching. Don't forget to hit that like, smash the subscribe, ring the notification bell, and I'll catch you in the next video.